Hello again, I'm Bob Weir with another video interview of people in the news in North Texas. My guest today is Kathy O'Keefe, founder of Winning the Fight, a nonprofit 501c3 organization dedicated to providing education about the scourge of drugs in our communities and offering support and resources for those suffering from the disease of addiction. Thank you for being here, Kathy.
Thank you so much for having me.
For those who may not know, please tell us what motivated you to start Winning the Fight.
Every 14 minutes, somebody dies from a drug overdose. And in 2010, on March 20th of 2010, our 18-year-old son was one of those statistics. He died from a drug overdose. He started using cigarettes when he was about 13 and a half, and he died from a heroin and Xanax overdose when he was 18. So it progressed rather quickly. So that's what made me start Winning the Fight. It's not something that anybody can go through alone. And it's impossible to do it, and you should not do it. You have to have support.
What do you think is the best way to educate people about the danger of drugs?
We have to educate. The only way we're going to get through this issue is to educate. We have to educate the kids as to, because they don't even know what drugs they're doing. They don't really understand what they're putting in their system and how the effects are. So we have to look at that from a multifaceted avenue. We have to give support to those that are using and educate from there and educate the families. We have to get education through the schools. We have to get education through the communities. So we use social media, we use regular education, we do programs, we do all kinds of, anything that we can do to get some education out there is what we're doing.
All right, so to get a bit specific, do you believe marijuana is a gateway drug?
For youth, yeah, absolutely. If you're 25 years old and you want to smoke pot, so be it. But when you are 10 and 12, and that's about the ages that we're seeing right now, when you're 10 and 12, your frontal lobe is not developed. And the minute you put a chemical into your system, that frontal lobe will stop developing. And that's your reasoning. So, you know, am I going to walk out on the curb and just jump out without looking? No, that's the part that develops. So putting any kind of chemical in your body at that time, until you're about 25, is very, very dangerous. What's even worse is right now, kids are saying, you know, it's just marijuana. We have a whole society that's saying, well, let's legalize it, let's do this and that. But the marijuana that the kids are smoking right now, when we drug test them, and we're seeing that from Denton County courts, Dallas courts, etc., we're seeing a lot of PCP, we're seeing a lot of methamphetamine also laced into the marijuana, as well as fentanyl, which is scary.
So the marijuana is more potent than it used to be.
It's more potent on its own, and then you've got drug dealers lacing it so that they have better drugs to buy, then you've got a problem.
And you add to that the fact that when marijuana is being sold to kids in an area, it's bringing drug pushers into the area as well, because Absolutely. They see a market, and then they may try to move the kids up to the next level of drugs.
Well, and marijuana is large. It's kind of large to be bringing in from Mexico, because most of our drugs come in from Mexico. So with that being large, why wouldn't it make sense for them to push them towards methamphetamine or heroin or anything like that? It's a smaller element that can come into the borders easier.
How about the problem with the youngsters using prescription drugs? Why would they use them?
You know, it's funny, years ago I heard about pharma parties. And what it was kids had a party, and they would just grab whatever drug they could find at home, and they would put it in a big bowl, and then they would grab handfuls and eat them. And so they were taking hurt medication, all kinds of things, and it was crazy when you think about it. But again, they're kids; they don't make a lot of really wise decisions. But the #1 problem we're having, every 19 minutes somebody dies from a prescription drug overdose right now. So when you look at that, how do we stop that? Lock up our drugs. We need to evaluate how many opiates. We are 5% of the population of the world, and we consume 85% of the pharmaceutical in the world. We're out of control.
Amazing.
It's crazy. And you know, it's funny, I was reading the other day that, you know, nurses and medical staff never really dealt with pain at the hospital. And all of a sudden they thought, okay, we're going to start treating the pain. And so once they started treating pain, ultimately what they did was create a lot of addiction. because that's where it's coming from, the pain addiction.
How would a parent know about this? What signs of drug abuse by their kids should they be aware of?
Well, the best thing you could ever do is drug test your kids. But certain drugs have different characteristics. If it's an opiate, they're going to be kind of sluggish. If they're like speedy all over the place, it's probably methamphetamine or amphetamine. MDMA is a pretty easy one. They're kind of combative. And that's Molly, MDMA, and ecstasy. It's kind of a common drug for middle school to early high school. They get a little combative. Xanax will make you combative, but ecstasy takes a while for them to come down, and they're thirsty all the time. So different drugs have different characteristics that you could start looking at. But if you think something's wrong, something's probably wrong. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You know your kid.
It's important to be observant, really, because you don't know what your kids are doing.
No.
Parents always think they know everything their kids are doing. What about what's the most commonly used hard drug?
Hard drug being an illegal drug, I'm assuming you're saying. The biggest problems we have is heroin, and heroin is now being laced with fentanyl, and that's a huge problem because fentanyl is like 50 times greater than heroin. So that's a problem, and it's coming up from Mexico, and fentanyl is the synthetic of this higher drug. Just recently in Ohio, they had 30 overdoses in 24 hours and then another 20 the next day because they're mixing it with some kind of elephant tranquilizer. And this is starting to kind of lash out throughout the United States right now. So I mean, people are doing crazy things. It really is. So we see a lot of heroin and we see a lot of methamphetamine from that. And then Xanax is a huge, and that's prescription, but that's a huge problem.
Tell us something about the movie Not Me, for which you were an executive producer last year. We went to see it at the Movie House in Flower Mound and had a good-sized crowd there, and you spoke to them. Is that still available somewhere for?
Yes, we just came out of film festival in Indiana. We were invited into 2 film festivals, Middle Coast and then the Indy Film Festival. We took Best Documentary in the Middle Coast Film Festival with that, and now we're awaiting, some time lapse, and we're hoping that somebody will come in and purchase that and then be able to distribute it out. So we're kind of in this holding pattern with that. In the meantime, we've got Not Me 1 that I am showing for educational purposes throughout the community. As a matter of fact, tomorrow is International Overdose Awareness Day, so I'm taking that documentary up to Denton County Juvenile probation, and we're going to be showing it to youth as well as the families.
That's great. That movie was an excellent portrayal of what happens when kids start using drugs and what their parents go through. More people should see it. Winning the Fight has an event coming up called Stompin' Stigma. Could you tell us about that?
Absolutely. We have such a problem with stigma right now. Many people look at addiction as a moral issue, and it really is not. It's a medical problem, a mental health problem. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring awareness to the stigma and the judgment that follows the addiction. So we're doing this 5K race, and we're stomping stigma. We're going to be stomping our feet all over that pavement. The race is actually here in Flower Mound. We're starting at Forestwood Middle School, and it's a certified 5K run through the trails. It's absolutely beautiful, and we're trying to just bring awareness to addiction and stopping some of this judgment that we get.
And the date again is?
The date is October 8th, and we have registration opens at 7, and the run walk, the fun one, is at 8, and then 8:30 is the 5K. And
where can they get that information? I'll have that also in the written portion of this. Is there a website that they should check?
Yes, our website, which is WTF-winningthefight.org.
Right.
We'll have all the information on it.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much, Kathy, for everything you do to fight drug abuse and to educate people in communities. More and more people have to become aware of the scourge of drugs, because I don't know how much worse it can get in this country before people just start being more active and working to stop it. I want to thank you again.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you. And thank you for watching.